Hello and welcome to Miranda's Insights number 5. Today I thought we would talk about suffering, the wheel of suffering, and freedom from suffering. So in Buddhism they have this thing called the wheel of suffering, and they explain the whole thing. And in Tibetan Buddhism they call it dependent origination. So I thought I would talk about that, and also, it's a very natural process that happens to all living beings who are ignorant of the truth, and it breaks down step by step how a person goes into suffering and then just perpetuates that whole wheel of suffering. And then as I do that, then I'll also give some example of myself in how I can suffer and how I don't have to suffer. So you might find this useful. So the first thing we'll start with is we start with ignorance, which means that I don't know who I am. I don't know what the reality is. I don't know what truth is. I don't know that everything is changing. I somehow hope maybe that something is unchanging, and that maybe I'm unchanging, or that certain things in my life is unchanging, that I can control it. So this is ignorance. So what it's saying is that there is a law called impermanence. Everything in existence is changing all the time. But I'm not aware of that. So in my unawareness of that, I cling, I hope, and create all kinds of things. So it starts with ignorance. And out of ignorance, out of not knowing the reality that all things are changing and that there's nothing out there that's actually a self, a real, permanent, whole self. There's nothing in this field of manifestation that's called permanent. So out of that comes mental formation. So I am constantly thinking that I'm thinking in a dualistic perspective. That's what mental formations mean, is that I've divided everything, and so my attention goes to all these little details and I don't see the whole picture. So I'm in a state of division all the time. That's mental formation. So I'm unhappy, I make up things, I conclude incorrectly, I have all kinds of feelings. So it's just a lot of mental movement. And out of mental formations gives rise, so this is the word they use, everything gives rise, it's dependent on the thing that happened before. So mental formations give rise to consciousness. And the way I understand consciousness here is that we're all endowed with this ability to know something, to be aware of something. But when you're coming out of ignorance, you tend to become aware of an object, and you actually, out of that whole state of oneness where everything is all connected and interconnected, when you become conscious, you start to narrow your vision down and focus and then start to create a form. And so a form, like a form comes out of the wave, or a wave in the ocean. The ocean is just one water, but we create a form through consciousness. You're just dwelling on one part of that whole and making it into something. So we are creating forms from our imagination, from our mind. And from form gives rise to senses. So there has to be one of my 5 senses, and the mind will pick up whatever is resonating, like whatever sense resonates with that form. The senses will pick up that particular form. And so let's say when those 3 things are together, like consciousness, you become aware of something, you're creating a form, and then one of the senses become alive, then the next thing that happens, that gives rise to contact. So contact is when you become identified, like you're all of a sudden aware that something happening to me. So there's contact, external, now it's internal. So I'm having contact with my sense object and I'm feeling it. So now I'm conscious here. So there's contact. So that's contact. And so if we're to use an example, let's say ignorant contact would mean that I'm not aware that everything is changing and that nothing is real. I'm not aware of that. So let's say I hear two people talking and I hear some words, so that's me conscious. There's some forms, two people, and then my ears are interested in what they're saying. And then I hear the word Meranda. And then Meranda kind of, so I'm identified as Meranda. So I hear Meranda, and then I start to hear a little bit more, and I think I might hear that they're saying something about my class that I taught, and something like they were disappointed or they didn't like it. I don't know exactly what they said, but I'm kind of figuring it out from a few of the words they say. So that's contact. I hear it, and then it comes to my ears, and then my mind. That's the next thing. One of the senses is the mind, and the mind starts to make a conclusion and says, they're talking about me. And they're saying something negative about me. So immediately I make a conclusion, a negative conclusion in this case. And so the contact turns into feeling. So it gives rise to feeling. So all of a sudden now I'm feeling anxious. I'm starting to feel worried. They don't like me. I'm feeling contracted in my body, and I'm shaking even because I'm identified. They're talking about me. So that's ignorant contact, and all of a sudden feeling arises. So I'm in this state of feeling, and out of feeling gives rise to craving or aversion. So now I'm craving to do something about this. I want to either get rid of this awful feeling that I'm having, or I want to change something. I want to, or I'm very attracted to something else because I don't like this feeling. So craving. And then craving turns into grasping or aversion, like pushing away, like repelling. So attraction and aversion. So then it's getting more formed. It's turning into something. So when I heard those words, I'm starting to get more anxious and more worried. And I haven't yet done anything about it. So I'm still at the stage of craving and aversion and anxiety and trying to grasp or do something, or think I should do something about it. So then the grasping turns into becoming. So at that stage, I'll start to feel that I've got to do something about this. So I'm starting to think, now what should I do? Should I go out and get some more training? I haven't got people don't like my classes. I'm making all these conclusions. So maybe I should pick up the phone and start calling more instructors and get some more training. Or maybe another thing was like, oh, I'm going to go and tell that person off. They shouldn't say that about me. Okay, so now it's becoming. Now then the becoming turns into birth. Birth means that now I'm a fully anxious person thinking that I have to do something about this situation of something that I heard. So now I'm going to go into action, and I'm going to become this anxious person that now has to fix the problem. And then birth, so now I've given birth to an anxious person, which is now this new situation, this new thought about myself is giving birth. And now this new thought about myself will turn or give rise to suffering. So now I will suffer as a result of this new idea about myself. Okay, So that's the wheel of suffering. There are two places in this wheel that I can catch myself. The first place is at the place of contact, and it's called wise contact rather than ignorant contact. So I go into the situation knowing that all things are impermanent, that nothing is really real, I can't trust my ears, I can't trust my eyes or senses. There's nothing that I can actually trust because nothing is really what it actually is. So wise contact is I'm aware that all I need to do is start seeing things for what it is, call it what it is, and leave it alone. Don't take it personally. So the stage I would go right now would be right at that contact when I heard those people say those words, instead of making a negative conclusion, even before feeling arises, I'd say, that doesn't belong to me. Maybe they said somebody else's name. If they said my name, then whoever they're thinking about is not me. They have an idea in their head. It's their judgment. It's their idea. It doesn't actually belong to me. I don't need to do anything about it. I don't need to change. There's nothing about me that needs to be more perfected just because my ears may have concluded something wrong. And even if I did conclude it correctly, I still don't need to change anything here. I don't need to suffer. I don't need to go into action. So at that point, I haven't even gone into a negative feeling. There's no negative feeling. So I nipped it in the bud, no negative feeling. If I miss that point, there's another point along the pathway that I can catch. So say I go into the negative feeling, which is now I'm anxious, I'm worried, I feel bad, people are judging me, so there's a contraction in my body, and now there's this hankering or this desire to change something about me or to change the situation. And so then I'm starting to feel like I better do something about this. So then I think, okay, I better, maybe I should probably get some more training. So I can stop it right here. And instead of going into action, I can say, nope, this is, I don't need to crave, I don't need to change anything, I am fine the way I am, I'm not going to take an action. I'm not going to become anything. I'm not going to go in the direction of turning myself into, let's say, an anxious person about this. I have decided I am not going to be anxious. That I was fine before I heard those words. I'm going to be fine after hearing those words. I'm not going to change because of something like that. So I can nip it in the bud there before I go into anxiety and then changing and then having to do something. Okay, so that's the cycle of suffering, and also the two places in which you can release yourself from the suffering and stay free inside. Okay, and my insight into that is just simply what is important here is to meditate, to be able to catch the places, those two spots where the suffering will start to arise. So at the place of contact, when I heard those words and my mind starts to interpret, I say, I'm not buying it. And the other insight is at the place of where I felt it and I'm starting to crave that I should be different. I can say, no, I'm not going to take action on this. And that's my insight, number 5, from here in Thailand. So I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye for now.